Welcome to the Undercovers show. I'm Ben, and I'm joined by Tommy and Paul. And if you guys are tuning in for the first time, we're Buffalo Bills podcast. And if this isn't your first time, you may have noticed we had an amazing new intro. So shout out to Jenna. Great job. And on the logo, too. You did an outstanding job. That is epic. So I don't really have much more to say, but you killed it. So shout
Thank
out
you.
to Jenna
Great.
for doing some great work on the logo and intro.
Amazing job.
Yep. Good job, Jenna.
Mediocre editing skills and or non-professional editing skills and animation.
Hey,
Doing my best.
well, it's a start, right?
Yeah. I don't plan to do anything with it. It's like a
Well,
hobby, I guess.
I guess if you're looking for an intro on the side, hit up Jenna. But really, kind of a slow week for Bills news. But we did get an interesting bomb. Bean and McDermott were both extended, or McBeane if you want to, combine the two. But kind of an interesting move as far as McDermott getting extended. I know there's been a lot of talk, maybe more for the fan side, but as far as the hot seat going, and I think this kind of just puts all the McDermott being on the hot seat to rest. But I will say this, at least with me, I kind of have some expectations for McDermott, and I probably would have waited to give him the extension. But this extension, they didn't just extend them. Apparently, it had to be been agreed upon for some time, but just interesting timing to announce the decision. But nonetheless, Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane will be staying in Buffalo through the 2027 season for now. So what are your guys' thoughts overall on, I think you can obviously look at all the great things Beane and McDermott has done throughout their time in Buffalo. So, they've done some great things, and hopefully we'll do some even better things, in the next couple of years.
Initial reaction to it when it came out, I was like, okay, great. Brandon Beane, has checked every box of my categories of what a GM, what I was expecting out of him. He makes the right trades. He makes the right signings. He's great at cap, and he seems like a great mathematical genius. Sean McDermott, on the other hand, he's always going to have at least a top 10 or top 5 defense in the league. Just to me, he just hasn't shown up to expectation. Yes, last year there was injuries and unforeseen things that got in the way of what could have been what should have been a Super Bowl run for the Bills. I still think that McDermott can get us there, but he needs to show us that he can get us there, because we haven't been to the AFC Championship in 2 seasons, which I think is an important milestone that he still needs to get and still hasn't got it. So to your point, Ben, I think we should have waited another year on McDermott just to see if he can get us there, because I think it's for at least for McDermott, it's AFC title or bust. I think it's simple as that. I think, if he doesn't get us to the AFC Championship game and doesn't win it, I think there's a reason to question, can he actually get us to where where we want to go?
Right. I like just having this stability for our organization. We haven't had a stable, organized, front office and coach for 20 some years, over 20 years. So it's just having this stability with our team. It's good to have, and having these guys around. I think it's just I said, McDermott has a winning record. He's been winning with this organization since he's got here. He's only had one losing season, and that was Josh's rookie year.
Yep.
So, like I said, I'm all on board with it. I hope we can get to that next step and get to that Super Bowl and win it. But I just like the stability with the team, knowing that we're not gonna have anything new. We know what's gonna happen with the team. Nothing's gonna change that bad, where we have to keep changing coaches and going through GMs and stuff. But just having the stability, I think it's good and it's healthy for
Right.
this organization.
Right. I that's a really good point. And I mean, I hear a lot of people mention his great regular season win percentage, but again, like Paul mentioned, we've regressed in the postseason in the last couple of years. And during the 18-year playout drought, however long it was, 17, I think, which is ironic because 17 is our quarterback. But anyways, I mean, during the drought, we didn't have 17. So I get what you're saying, but when you have Trent Edwards, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tyrod Taylor, as quarterbacks year in, year out, and you don't have, that face of your franchise guy who's now on, the face of Madden. So, I mean, it's all fine and dandy when you got a Sean McDermott who's holding things together for a team, I guess, who has a different quarterback every year. But when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, I mean, there's a bar. And if you have him on your team, I mean, you should be getting there every year. So I don't think we can necessarily look at the Bills' regular season success, at least, and be like, oh, yeah, Sean McDermott. I mean, yes, his first year, he broke the drought. He got the Bills in the playoffs. And then, they've taken some marginal steps forward. But like Paul said, they kind of, hit a wall, so to speak. And it's interesting because both Beane and McDermott were already their contracts were through 2025. They'd been extended before. So, I mean, I guess the thinking is maybe, get them through till the new stadium comes. But we're also, I think we can all agree, in a very we're in a window now, however big that remains. But I mean, it is definitely a little, it's not like it's really tight with Josh Allen, but I mean, certain guys aren't going to be there in a couple years. So if Sean McDermott keeps bringing you to divisional games and you can't get past the hump, then I feel like you got to have a conversation.
I get it.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Jenna. What's up?
Yeah. All right, good. Because when I was like fiddling with my microphone, and the cord that plugs into it, I accidentally tugged on it, and the little USB-C metal part came out of the actual cord.
Oh.
I was like, that's why I made the face that I made right before I went out. I was like, oh shoot, it's stuck, and I'm afraid to touch it because what if I shock the point?
Right.
I probably wouldn't have shocked myself actually because it had no power supply. But yeah, it was. Anyways, I would like to add that no doubt McDermott is on the hot seat within our fan base because we have very high expectations. But the Bills clearly like McDermott. Matthew Smiley was the scapegoat for 13 seconds. Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Was that Smiley? He was the special teams coordinator? No.
I think so.
I think that's the current special teams coordinator. One of the old special teams coordinator. He was a scapegoat for 13 seconds. And then Leslie Frazier was the one that was let go this past offseason. So they don't really see McDermott as being the issue, and they believe in him.
Mm-hmm.
I am about 75% in on McDermott because of what he has done for this franchise.
Right.
Brought us back to the playoffs, even though it was a win. It was a really slim chance that the Bills were to make the playoffs in 2017, and it took a miracle fourth down play to be able to
Shout
get
out
in.
to Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he still got us within range to make that possible. And he's done a lot for the locker room since he's come in. Think of all the other head coaches that we've had. Rex Ryan, Doug Marrone, that just terrible. So there's really not much you can say other than that he's changed a lot of things for our team and for the better. So yeah, we haven't made the Super Bowl yet with him, but we've had a lot of extenuating circumstances that have halted our season, knocked us out of the playoffs. So let's give him a chance this year. maybe
Mhm.
next year,
Yep.
see what happens, and then after that, we could probably move on.
Right.
It's not like we can't fire him in the middle of a contract.
Right.
I mean, you
So
could. I mean, if he's not
This was
not
this
exceeding
was just an
expectations.
insurance to keep him past 2027. Just insurance.
So I guess the question is, what does McDermott need to do in the next 3 years to still be the Bills coach? If they don't have a new by the time the new stadium is open, if they don't have a Super Bowl title, do you think McDermott should still be the coach?
Personally, I would say no.
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna
expect
say no.
a Super Bowl title out of him. Maybe in the next 2-3 years, honestly.
Yeah, I could see him
Yeah.
getting canned if it doesn't happen. I could see.
Another interesting thing too about this is, and I mean, I know they both came from Carolina, and I know they came in together the same year, and I mean, it's pretty obvious that McDermott kind of brought Bean in, but this also basically, ties the two together. It marries their contracts, so they're the same length. I know that, again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but I mean, I feel like Bean is almost siding to McDermott, where like you think if McDermott goes down, the whole ship goes down, because like it almost just seems like Bean and McDermott. I know they report differently to Terry, but it almost seems like they're on the same page with a lot of stuff. I mean, if McDermott goes, do you really see a situation where Brandon is still around? I mean, I would personally. I mean, we're speaking the hypotheticals. Not that I want McDermott to be fired, because I mean, I think he deserves another shot after last year, and I actually think last season was, outside of the playoffs, of course, was his best season as coach. At least his best coaching season. Resume wise, at least in my opinion. But in this hypotheticals, I would be interested to see how much of an imprint Sean McDermott really leaves on this roster, because you look at personnel, you look at drafting, and yes, Bean is the one doing it, but I mean, these are really McDermott teams. Like, how would the Buffalo Bills look? And I mean, who would Brandon Bean like to bring in as a head coach? I mean, again, like, I'm not saying I want McDermott fired, but it just seems like both of them are kind of a package, and like it seems like the ship goes down, they're going down together.
I
think
can
so,
see that a little bit. I mean, if it came to McDermott being fired, the only way I see McDermott being fired is that if he doesn't hold up to expectation. I mean, it's definitely winning the division every year. That's expectation number one. I mean, maybe getting 12, 13 wins, that's expectation number two. That's what we're accustomed to. But
Well,
the
I don't
next
know if
step
you could say
is
winning it every year. I would say maybe making the playoffs and competing, because now that there's other divisional
right.
strengths, like I mean, if the Bills win 11 games and the Jets or Dolphins were 12-6 and won by a half a game, I don't think that's necessarily a disappointment. But I think that is if you win 8 games and you don't even make the playoffs.
Right.
That's a disappointment. Yeah.
I definitely do think if McDermott if obviously we're speaking the hypothetical here, but like if he gets fired, I think there's going to be some sort of transition period. I think that there's going to be like that transitional period where you're moving on to another coach. I think, because even though McDermott has the locker room, he kind of, in a way, he kind of has the fan base, because he ended the Bills drought. I mean, I think some fans just are so honed in that he got us back to the playoffs, back to winning football. This is what we feel, and we kind of grown to. Some fans kind of are just attaching themselves to just to Sean McDermott, like he's the guy that's going to get us through. So that's why I think if push comes to shove that McDermott has to go, I think there's going to be that transitional period between the team because of the locker room and the fans.
Right.
Yeah. There's still a portion of the fan base that actually despises McDermott and is just very against it. maybe I take that back. Despise, but just we're not a fan of him. So
I guess.
I don't know, which I don't get.
So I guess another kind of, follow up to that. I mean, Tommy, what would it really ultimately take within the next 2 years for the Bills to move on from McDermott?
Oh man, I feel like if like we just start like I think if he missed the playoffs 2 straight years,
2 straight years.
that
So
would
even this year, when you have Von Miller, Josh Allen, Diggs, all these great players, even if they go 8-9 in a minimal injury, season, are you still going to give him another year?
I think Terry and Kim would probably give him one more year, and then if he doesn't do it, then I think gone. I think the minimum would be 2 years.
2 years?
Just because I think it's a 2 year. I think it would be like another 2 year window with him. That's my opinion. Yeah.
I think if we're being super conservative, then it would be just 1 year of missing the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Unless Josh Allen were to go down, knock on wood. I think if Josh Allen went down and we missed the playoffs, then you probably give him another year. But if we still had all our guys, even if they were a little banged up, and we missed the play, because think about last year, we were 13-3 with all the injuries that we had, the DeMar Hamlin situation, all the extreme weather circumstances. We went 13-3. So if we still had all our guys and there was a little injury bug going on and we missed the playoffs, I don't know how much leeway I would give them, to be honest.
Sure. No, 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, also too, I think you gotta at least monitor the Dig situation, what's going on in the locker room, and what's the actual legitimate issues. I mean, is it? I mean, I think it could. I'm not saying it is, but it could go deeper than just a Ken Dorsey issue, and then if it spans further than that, I mean, if it goes further in the locker room, I mean, it ultimately, the head coach is, it's up to the head coach to, keep the team in line, keep the team together and everything. And if the team starts to fall apart and McDermott loses the locker room, I mean, that's another thing, you could look at. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's something that could happen, right? With, all these personalities, guys, the players could start siding together. No, depending, I'm not saying there's an issue, because no one actually knows, why Diggs didn't go to mini camp. And I mean, it really could be a whole nothing burger, but if something is going on, I mean, it's really up to McDermott to keep it together, in my mind at least.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if things go south, I mean, and that's another thing. Could Diggs be upset? Could it be McDermott he's upset with? I mean, is that an angle anyone's really looked at or analyzed before? I mean, we all, rush to say, oh, it's Dorsey, it's Allen, but I mean, why isn't it, the head coach? She's the one who says, I'm very concerned. And regardless or not, I mean, there's not a clear, consistent message going on there. So I think, when your head coach is out there saying stuff like that, I feel like you got to at least maybe not take it as, a red flag, but I think you got to at least, bookmark it and, check it off for future dates, because, I mean, it could be something, because, I mean, that's really not typical Sean McDermott language to, be talking about, like, very concerned, especially, in minicamp at least.
Yeah. And the fact that McDermott, like the conversation that they had before the press conference when he said to Diggs, just go home.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where he said, go home. And you kind of wonder what Diggs was saying to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably struck a nerve with McDermott. I do think that if things go south and it all falls on McDermott's shoulders, that Diggs might be the first one to come for his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily. I mean, I think McDermott could definitely be a pointing. You can point your finger toward like this is why Diggs acted the way he did. I mean, I don't think we'll really ever know why Diggs missed that day, but you can speculate that maybe it is McDermott. Maybe he's losing the locker room just a little bit. Well, I guess we'll see. What kind of leash Diggs has with McDermott throughout the season as the season progresses and as games start becoming more meaningful. And if we don't win that meaningful game, how does Diggs react to McDermott's comments, and how does McDermott act towards Diggs comments? So I think we'll know and start figuring out who might be that person that why Diggs missed minicamp just a few weeks ago.
I'm team Diggs, by the way. Like, I mean, whatever is happening, like, I feel like you could have a lot worse drama for your number one receiver to be skipping mini camps or be upset about his role in his offense. Heck, look at the Miami situation where Tyreek Hill, is assaulting a guy on a boat dock and saying, I can, I'm number 10 on the Dolphins. I can buy your boat, whatever. I mean, that's something that Miami fans are sweeping under the rug, but that's like his third actual, incident or whatever. And the NFL looks at repeated incidents and, a pattern of behavior and a history. So, I mean, this obviously going to sound biased as a Bills fan, but I think the NFL needs to look into seriously giving him at least maybe like a 2, maybe 4-game suspension. Hill, at least, not Diggs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Tommy, but we can transition into our next topic, which is the Tyreek Hill drama and what's going on in the AFC East. So, Tommy, let me hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, when I heard that news, when did it come out? Last Wednesday, Thursday, was it?
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday night, something like that.
I was thinking, okay, maybe it's not under the portion, but it's like, I mean, he's had a repeated offense of stuff like this with a ex-girlfriend, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, he's a repeated offender. If this comes out where this guy's going to press charges and he's found guilty, I feel like he should definitely get at least 4.
I think you're cutting out.
Yeah, you're cut out a little bit, but yeah, I agree. I think you should get a 4 to 5 game suspension.
Yeah, I think I'm in the 4 to 6 range because of his repeated offenses he's had before. So.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. Did y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Go ahead, Paul.
I think the personal conduct policy says it's at least 4 games for whatever offense that he gets. Obviously, he's a repeated offender, so I think it's not 4 games. I think it's anywhere from 6 to 8 because he's a repeated offender. I think if he's a repeated offender, I think the NFL is going to be more stricter on how many more games he gets because he's a repeated offender. I mean, you see it in the NHL.
Right.
I mean, a repeated offender in the NHL gets more games than a one-time act. So I think this is his 3rd or 4th act. So that means he should get 6 to 8, maybe 8 to 10. Just depends how much the NFL weighs the repeated offender situation.
See, I don't know if he's been suspended before, so I don't know if you could really use.
He has been, actually.
He has been for how many games? 4 games, right?
Let me check.
Okay.
I do remember.
I think he missed 4. If I'm mistaken. I think it was 4, Ben.
Looking this up. Okay, so let's see. Back in 2019, no, he was not. Sorry, my iPad is lighting up my face. He was not suspended.
Oh wow.
So I was wrong.
Okay.
Was
Well,
the
let's
charges repealed, or was he like give the other guy like an NDA or something? Do we know the details of that
for
by any chance?
the other one.
Yeah, the 2019 one. Because if I guess the story becomes if he's not charged with anything, I don't think the NFL really looks at it as something that's suspension worthy.
Well, you
Just in my mind,
could because I mean, Deshaun Watson
right?
got civil charges and he didn't get criminal charges
Mhm.
and he was suspended. So I mean, I guess it goes back. If he hasn't gotten suspended previously, I mean, you can't really use the 6 to 8 game thing. Then obviously I would probably just do the 4, but
Right.
I mean, I think the Bills play the Dolphins week 4, so I mean that lines up for the Bills perfectly either way. So I mean, hey, I'd be fine with a 4 game suspension. Um,
Yeah, definitely as a Bills fan, but as far as Deshaun Watson, that was a bit of a different magnitude. His case, and I think it was more so league pressure,
mhm.
because of the NFL world and how they felt
Right,
about it.
but it's the NFL still does have a personal conduct policy.
Yeah,
So if they feel like Hill was in violation of the personal conduct policy, then they could still see it fit to suspend him. But you are correct; it is
Yeah.
slightly different circumstances versus Watson, but there still is a personal conduct policy, and violence is prohibited. So I mean, they could look and say, hey, you know,
yeah,
we do not approve of violence. And I mean, you do kind of have a history here, Tyreek. We've, let you off, before. So, um, I would say in that case, I mean, he could, potentially fit it. But will the NFL do something? I would be highly shocked if they did end up suspending Hill, just because he's such a star, for the Dolphins. I just don't see it happening. I mean, I think they should, just based on it does violate the conduct policy, and he does have a history, but I don't think the NFL will do anything, when it's all said and done. But I think they should, though.
Oh, I agree. I mean,
yeah.
I
I
it's
mean,
hard.
just thinking about how many times Tyreek has been in this situation. Back in 2014, he had pled guilty to domestic assault and battery, and he was dismissed from Oklahoma State. And then in 2019, there was another investigation reopened, not reopened, but it opened in 2019. But the NFL unfortunately didn't suspend him there. So it's just like, how many times are you going to let this guy get off the hook? He needs to be disciplined somehow.
right.
I know.
Just because he's a star, and I'm not just because I'm a Bills fan and I don't want to see the Dolphins succeed, but he needs to be disciplined too.
Yeah, and I think
Set
you
an
do.
example.
Exactly. You do have to. I was just going to say the same thing, Jenna. You do have to set an example to the younger players in the NFL that, hey, even though, Tyreek's a star, he's a household name and paid all this money, there's still rules to follow. We still got to protect the shield and the integrity of, the game and the brand. We can't just have guys going out, beating innocent people up because, they get into a fight on the dock or whatever. It's just a bad look for the brand, and for the NFL. But I mean, I think, to move on, the Bills training camp begins in a month from today, exactly a month from today, if I'm not mistaken. And training camp tickets went for sale, but a lot of people, including me, and I know you and Paul, Jenna and Paul, were unable to get tickets due to Ticketmaster. So I mean, we'll transition to the next topic about just the state of the training camp tickets at Ticketmaster. Like, it seemed a lot of fans were unable to get tickets, and you already see people going ahead and reselling free tickets, which is, I mean, it's sad to see, but I guess it's just the state of society. But I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on the whole training camp process? I mean, I obviously it's not a good one, but I mean, if anyone was able to get tickets, I mean, I hope you enjoy camp. But I know that for us on the panel, I mean, we had a hard time getting them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was really difficult. You can go ahead, Paul.
it was difficult. I mean, I
Okay.
even refreshed it. The thing was, and I don't think I'm upset at not able to go. Like, I wanted to go. I mean, this was something I planned a month ago. Like, I wanted to go, but like, I'm not upset. I don't think I'm that upset about not going. I'm upset about the process of
Right.
it. I get into the queue and it tells me the tickets are available. So I get in, I put in the amount of tickets I need, and it tells me that I can't. And then I refresh my page, and then I put it in again. This is still telling me tickets are available, and it tells me that same error again. I refresh, then I get this sold out. Why am I entering a queue, waiting for my tickets, and then you're going to tell me the tickets are sold out? Tell me ahead of time, so I don't have to waste the extra 30 seconds to a minute not knowing that they're there.
I was in that queue for a while, and it said there was 1,471 people ahead of me, and same thing happened with me when I got there. Sorry, we're all sold out.
Yeah,
I just don't
I actually
understand the
never made
process.
it. Sorry. All right, Tommy, you can go.
What's up? Oh,
You
got
can go,
cut out,
Tommy.
Jenna, sorry. Oh, no, I was just gonna say, like, I think they didn't have an issue with like this yesterday. Like, I feel like last year, like, they could have done better, been more prepared of how they could have done it at Ticketmaster or go through another ticket distribution. It's crazy, like, because people look forward to going up for training camp and then they can't get their tickets, and it get frustrating. They should have had a
Yeah,
plan.
definitely.
They need to have the tickets available at Tops again. Like,
yeah, I
back in
remember
the
that.
day, like, you had to physically go into Tops and go to customer service and pick up your tickets. So I feel like there's with all the bots and everything online, like, there's probably just, I feel like even the people who got tickets, not all of them were actually maybe actual Bills fans are waiting in line. So, I mean, that definitely would eliminate the whole Ticketmaster debacle. And I mean, it really isn't just training camp either. It's the London game, the whole process to get in queue to get tickets for that was a mess. Now the London tickets, the prices, that skyrocketed on the resale market. So, I mean, it's just really Ticketmaster in general, which is really not a good system, and they repeatedly just take such advantage of their fees and everything. So they'll charge you fees when selling, and then resell. I mean, there's so many different fees, and I mean, they're just astronomical. So I agree completely, Tommy. Like, I mean, if anything, why don't the Bills, I mean, I guess they don't have their own ticket platform, so they can't really, but I mean, you would think there'd be an easier and more simpler way, but unfortunately there's not.
Do you maybe
Yeah.
think my idea was like, it came across to me like Dallas has their training camp elsewhere. They go to California for a few days and they come back to Frisco and then they do the rest of their training camp there. Maybe the Bills go to St. John Fisher for a few days and then they come back to Highmark and then use Highmark and try to get more people to come.
Well, I think that's what they do. They do that, but the problem is they don't open up the practices at Highmark. See, actually, back in the day, they used to, like, before the Bean McDermott regime, they used to practice a lot longer in training camp. And then after COVID and everything, and even, when Beane and McDermott got there, like I think they probably took about 10 practices away from Rochester. So that's another thing you got to keep into account too. I mean, if there's 10 more practices, there's a lot more tickets available. And, when Wegmans used to sponsor and run it, like it used to be open admissions. Now that's not the case anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
It's better. I
they
think.
definitely need to maybe do a different site. Maybe sell it on the Bills site instead.
That's what I was thinking. But the problem is, even the Bill site is like run by Ticketmaster. They sell their tickets through Ticketmaster, so they would have to like come up with their own platform. I mean, it's a tough predicament. I don't know. I mean, but we're still getting close to training camp, so to continue the conversation, I thought we talk a little training camp. What is the first battle everyone is looking forward to going into training camp? And I'll go around. Paul, we can start with you.
I think the cornerback battle is going to be a fun battle to watch. I mean, we talked a little bit about this last week with Kyrie Elam and Christian Bedford both having outstanding OTAs and minicamps. I think that cornerback battle, I mean, if I was able to go, that's the battle I would sit down and watch, and then I will watch the running back battle. Both of those battles to me just intrigue me the most.
Jenna.
The linebacker. I'm a big Dorian Williams fan, so I'm looking forward to see Dorian and Terrell and Tyrell, AJ Klein duke it out, see who gets that starting role. I think I heard that Dorian Williams, he wasn't really hitting the pads really well, or what are those things that
Like the sleds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the sleds. He wasn't hitting the sleds really very well, or it was those big circular weights. He wasn't hitting it very well, but he wasn't orienting his hips a certain way. So I think that's a lot of practice on him that he'll have to go through. I'm really excited to see how the linebacker room turns out and who they put on the practice squad, like Balin Spector. Is he going to be on the practice squad? Is he going to make the roster? Tyler Matakevich, he's been a poor special teams player, but is he going to make the roster? EJ Klein, is he going to make the roster? There's a few guys that we'll have to keep an eye on there. Also, the wide receiver room too, the bottom of the depth chart.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Trent Sherfield, he was brought in to be a bigger body. He was also brought in for a special teams role. So is Justin Shorter gonna? He's a big body and a special teams player too. Is he gonna push him to make a roster spot? Is he gonna push him in the depth chart?
Right.
Is Jalen Wayne gonna push it to make a roster spot? Desmond Patton, Isaiah Coulter, are any of those guys going to be given a chance? So that wide receiver room is really interesting too.
Tommy, what's the one position group you're looking into going into camp?
I'm looking at our right tackle situation. Like,
ooh, you think there could be a competition there?
I think there might if Spencer Brown is still struggling out there, like they noticed something in camp where he's not reading his protections right, or not, getting off the blitz, or checking out where he needs to be. Like, I think the guy we signed in the offseason, is it Snell? Brandon
Shell. Brandon Shell.
He might step up, or he could take over that right tackle spot if Brown keeps struggling. I'm just still concerned about the spot, and I think it could be a spot where they keep their eye on the coaching staff.
Yeah, I agree. Right tackles definitely a spot to look at. I think wide receiver 3 personally. You bring in some,
Okay.
interesting free agents between Hardy and Sherfield. Sherfield obviously it was kind of a starting slot at Miami. Hardy's got something that, that we didn't really have in the room last year, and that's, just pure speed and twitchiness and just he's so much shiftier than McKenzie. So I know, people look at McKenzie
Right.
like, yeah, but I don't. I really think Hardy has an extra gear that McKenzie, doesn't have. Then obviously you still have Shakir, who I think Shakir. I mean, even depending on how Gabe does next season. I mean, if there's a world where Gabe is kind of struggling like he was last year, he's not getting open versus man, and I mean he's getting some drops, and Josh just isn't targeting him for whatever reason because he's not getting open. I mean, I see a world where Khalil Shakir, maybe he starts in on the slot, but maybe with Dalton Kincaid, playing and being a role, maybe, they push Shakir to more outside snaps. But I mean, could Shakir even push Davis next year? I mean, I think obviously there's an open competition for the wide receiver 3, and I wouldn't be shocked if Shakir even slid up the depth chart even further, depending on how the rest of the receiver room shakes out. Next question on camp: who's one player, and this is going to be an under the radar player. So I mean, obviously we're not going to go Torrance, Kincaid. I mean, you can go free agents, you can go guys on the rosters, but who's an under the radar player you are going to keep an eye on, preseason camp? Doesn't have to be a household name, but who's someone, you think has potential and, maybe not to the 53, but maybe practice squad?
Um, I'm looking at the receiver Wayne,
Jalen
Reggie
Wayne,
Wayne's. I'm
nephew,
looking at him.
cousin. Yep.
I wanted to see like if he's got the strides. Like, they put him out there for free games. I want to see like how he does on his routes. Like can he get open with the from to him? And I'm looking at like like the routes. Can he get off the line of scrimmage like at a good speed? What speed can he break it? Loose like on a and yeah, I think he's the guy I'm going to keep my eye on during the camp and preseason games.
What about you, Paul? You got anyone you're looking out for camp?
I mean, Tommy took mine, but I will say a different name. But like Jalen Wayne was one guy I was going to say, but I want to say as we drafted him later in the round, Alex Austin, the safety corner we got from Oregon State. I honestly, after we drafted him, I looked at him just a little bit. I think he's a little underrated. I don't think he makes the 53, but I think he's definitely a practice squad player that I think the Bills could use in future. Maybe down the line, maybe as a CB4, maybe I think he can also play a little bit of safety. So I think that's a guy that the Bills could use down the line instead of right now. But I think Alex Austin's a guy that the Bills could develop into a household name maybe.
Great pick. I like that pick.
Yeah, they're infamous from of turning Oregon State products into highly productive defensive backs like in Jordan Poyer. So who knows? Maybe he could be our next our Jordan Poyer 2.0 in a way, cornerback to safety.
Yep.
And I don't know, maybe I can piggyback off or just say who I'm looking at for training camp. I guess I won't go with an underwhelming name. I'm going to say James Cook. I'm really excited to see how he handles the workload that we give him as RB1. And I hope that we give him even greater workload, um, more so than Devin Singletary got last season or has gotten in seasons past. I think we need to lean on the run game a little bit more, and mix it in. I'm hoping that he gets CS more than 250 carries or something like that. We'll see how he's utilized. I just want to see. He probably won't play in preseason very much at all.
Mhm.
So um, just in training camp and even Dalton Kincaid too. I'm excited to see how he looks in pads. Um, so yeah, those two are mine.
Yeah, mine.
Yeah.
Sticking with the offensive side of the ball, Tommy, undrafted guys, and sticking with the tight end room. I'm intrigued by Joel Wilson from Central Michigan. You know what I've seen on the tape. He's got, I mean, outside of Kincaid at least, but he had some of the best hands um, out of the tight ends in the class, and I mean he's a guy who's flexed out too. I mean I think it's tough that 4 tight ends make the team, especially. I like uh, I like Quentin Morris as well. To obviously make the team and have a role, especially if you're running heavy 12 men. But if you're talking about maybe a developmental guy to stash on the practice squad, um, maybe, to also, call up because you do have what I think it's 3 practice squad promotions per player per regular season. I think it's 3. I
It's
might be
true.
wrong. Yep. So, I mean, if a guy gets banged up or whatever, I mean, you could even call him up. But I think he's an interesting developmental piece. Again, there's probably no way 4 tight ends make the roster, but I mean, if he really breaks out, maybe he could surpass Morris. But I mean, I like Quentin Morris, and shout out to Cover One, by the way. They do great work. And they just mentioned Trent Sherfield, and I definitely agree with Sherfield. I think Sherfield is going to have a really nice role. I agree. I think Hardy's going to have a nice role too. I mean, I think any of these wide receivers, and I've heard other people mention it before, where there could be days where Hardy has a big day. There could be days where Sherfield has a big day. There could be days where Gabe has a big day. I mean, I just think there's so much variance. There's a lot of different guys who can do a lot of different things, a lot of different skill sets. So I really just think a lot of it does depend on Dorsey to, you know, put the guys in the right positions, to scheme out the right plays. And I mean, I think we actually got a lot to work with, even without, adding D Hop.
That wide receiver room, I mean, you could say we know what Diggs' roles is going to be, but outside of Diggs' role, then the wide receiver room is wide open.
Yeah.
I mean, for whatever we can use, I think.
I mean, I hope it's wide open on the field this year.
But
Even Josh has said about already have a connection, which is great. So that's even more promising for Sherfield's role in this offense.
A thing I like too about Sherfield and Hardy compared to some of the other free agent wide receivers we brought in, like Beasley, Brown, Sanders. I mean, these guys are like, what, 25, 26. And I mean, I know Hardy had the turf toe, but he got surgery. He should be healthy now. So it's nice that we got some younger guys who played on other teams and they're developed wide receivers, but they aren't quite over the hill, right? Like, Emmanuel Sanders, John Brown, where maybe it's going to be a battle seeing if they're even available every week because of injuries. So I think it's a little nice that we kind of got proven guys, but they are a little younger. I mean, I would have loved Jacoby Myers. I mean, even last year, I would have loved Christian Kirk, but the problem is, it's just the free agent receiver market. It's just so messed up right now that, I mean, you're already paying Diggs, and I mean, Davis is going to get his money. So, I mean, it's obvious that there's only so much we could allocate to the free agent wide receivers, but I think Bean did a nice job of getting 2 guys with very good skill sets that, can catch the ball, they can get open, and they can run after the catch.
Yep. Um, for my own fault, I was going to mention Marquez Stevenson, but I did not know that he's actually on the Carolina Panthers now.
Well, he will have a great training camp with the Carolina Panthers, along with Blackshear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blackshear last year was amazing. I wish he would have made the roster
Oh
last year.
man, imagine if we had Blackshear and Cooked. That would be something.
man.
Well, I guess we can have all of our favorites on the team, but do you guys have anything else you guys want to mention tonight? We got the McBeane extension, the Hill situation, training camp sorted out. I mean, obviously, we'll probably break down these position battles in the groups a little bit further once we get closer to training camp. But did you have any other thoughts before we wrapped up tonight, Tommy, Paul, or Jenna?
Yeah, I actually wanted to mention the new stadium.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, the other day the Bills put out a video about the process of scouting the new stadium, figuring out if renovation is more cost controlled rather than building a new entire stadium altogether. And they actually figured out that building a new stadium is more cost efficient than doing renovations. Because if they did renovations, they figured that it would almost be like building a new stadium in the exact same spot. That's how much had to go into renovations.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, your people complaining about there's 63,000 season tickets supposedly right now, and there's only going to be 60,000 seats. Look, here's the thing: you got to take in consideration. There's going to be they actually left out seating for club standing rooms. So, and a lot of the season tickets are club stuff like that. So, I mean, yes, we did lose a certain percentage in capacity, but compared to even, some of the other new stadiums, like Allegiant Stadium, I believe only holds like 65,000, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look it up. Yeah, 65,000. I mean, Lucas Oil holds, I think, 63,000. So, I mean, there's a lot of, new state-of-the-art stadiums that, I mean, the capacity, really isn't even that much bigger. I mean, I know SoFi's 70,000. So, I mean, what, 10,000 more? But, I mean, Allegiant Stadium's about the same. So is, Lucas Oil Field. So, I mean, yes, you would like the Bills to be able to host 90,000, 100,000 fans, but you also got to, look at what's, realistic and, cost effective. But, I mean, yeah, it would be nice to, have it be a little bit bigger, but I'm not going to complain when we're getting a new stadium that's state of the art. And I don't know. I'm excited, though, for the new stadium.
I'm ecstatic for the new stadium. I think having more club seats makes more of your ticket revenue come from the home fans rather than having more revenue of your tickets come from the away side. So having some of these club seats, it benefits the Bills just a little bit more on the ticket revenue side.
And how much standing room is going to be available? Like
about 5,000.
Oh, wow.
That's the thing. There's like 5,000 people standing, over. I mean, I'm standing anyway. So, like, what difference does it make if you're not even having a seat, right? Like, half the stadium is standing. So when you take that into account, it's still what, 65,000 people,
right? Yeah. And plus, include the clubs. I mean, I think there's like 4 or 5 different club seatings throughout the stadium. I think they're also quite big as well. So I mean, add maybe another 1,000 or 2.
Yeah, in the standing area, there's probably going to be some small tables available, and also take into account that the concourse area is going to be 360-degree field view. So people are going to be like, I remember when last month I went to the Pittsburgh Pirates Stadium, and it was like almost 360 degrees. You could see the field from or the diamond from the the diamond. No, I'm not very like keen on baseball.
Yeah,
You
the
know.
diamond.
Yeah, you could see the field from the concourse area. So people are going to be walking around, getting their food, getting their drinks, and they'll still be able to see the field. I'm sure that there's people that are kind of more committed to walking around the concourse than sitting in their seats.
Yeah.
So added the standing area, then it'll all work itself out. They're putting a lot of research into this.
Yeah.
They're looking at Cottingham Hotspur Stadium as a replica. So we're just gonna have to see.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they're gonna release more information as the stadium is being built. But I really enjoyed that video that they put out the other day. I think it's cool that they're gonna document the entire construction.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. I'm looking forward to all the updates, and obviously, being there once the new stadium is finished. Paul, you got anything else for us?
Other than that, no. I mean, I just like how in the video that Pugul literally, when he went to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, he literally asked for the worst seat, like the worst seat, like the highest seat, like where's the worst seat in the stadium, and he sat there and he thought it was the best seat. So even though you might be high in the sky, you're going to be able to have a good time, good fan experience at the new stadium, even if you're at 300 level final row.
Right.
Yeah. And Terry's little speech. What I keep thinking about, what I won't ever get out of my head, is how he was saying about Ralph Wilson. Like, Ralph, you wanted to keep the Bills in Buffalo. We're actually moving across the street, Ralph. Like, that just like makes me so happy that they're gonna stay in the area, stay in the city. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I'm excited, and hopefully we get a banner. That's should be hanging. By the time the new stadium opens up, or hopefully a couple actually. Why? Why just have one?
Why not 3? And make the new stadium 4.
How about 4? Avenge those 4 Super Bowl Austins. Give us 4 Super Bowls by the time. Actually, I don't even know if that's possible. 2023, 2024.
It opens in 26. If you want a 23, 24, 20. Wait, yeah.
I think
you win the 6th one in the new stadium.
Yeah. Complete the quest.
Sorry, 4th. I said 6th.
I do have one more thing before we go. I was going to say, what thoughts on the Jets going on Hard Knocks?
Good. Let them. I'm gonna look forward to seeing how that unfolds if it happens.
Yeah, maybe Aaron Rodgers will show his feet to the camera.
If that happens, Rex Ryan is gonna really enjoy that.
Yeah, and maybe he'll have a little ayahuasca trip during camp.
Right.
Maybe they'll show take a tour of his darkness retreat place. I don't know. We'll see. But also, a lot of teams, they don't want to go on Hard Knocks because other teams will look into it and get little tidbits of their training camp and what they want to implement into their game plan. Many teams want to avoid that. So maybe it'll turn out to be a burden for the Jets that they're going on Hard Knocks, especially with a new system. It's like other teams are going to be able to look into it and see what they're changing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Again, this is the Undercovers podcast. Please tune in every Thursday night at 7:30 for the Buffalo Basement with Matt and Paul. And go Bills, and have a great night.
All right, go Bills.